Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So in my previous video we created this card with the auricula, and whilst we were creating that I created these three ATC backgrounds, and I'm always saying to you, oh well, I'll use those. So I thought, well, in this video I will actually use these. So they're actually three ATCs, so I'm actually going to use those. So that was the card that I created in the previous video that created the backgrounds for these three ATCs. I'll try and remember to put the link to this video into this one in the description. So just place that away. So I thought, well, I really should practice what I preach and do something with them. So I've got the three ATCs and I'm going to mount them onto a piece of 4x6 inch Pink Frog super smooth card, and then onto a black mat, and then I'll add it to a 5x7 card blank. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the auricula stamp, she says. So I'm going to take the auricula stamp, and I'm going to decide where I'm going to stamp. So if I take my little 4x6 inch piece of card, I'm sort of going to lay these like ish. So I'm going to stamp on the left hand side of this. So I'm going to use the Barley Blue VersaFine Clair ink pad, and I'm going to ink my auricula stamp set. I really should put the acetate back because then I'm not looking for it for an hour. So I'm going to ink the auricula stamp, which is TE2, and I tend to ink the whole thing, mainly because you'll never just get it just right without inking the whole thing, and then I can just wipe off whatever lands on my non-stick craft sheet. So I'm going to add this little bit here, and I'm just going to give that some time just to absorb onto the surface of the card. And I do love the colours on here that we created, and I love it when you can sort of get a twofer. You know, you've created one card and then you get second backgrounds that I actually mopped up onto the ATCs, and I do love it when you can do that. So we'll just, there we go. So we've got our lovely auricula on there. I'll just grab a wipe and then we'll just wipe up that excess. Just grab a little bit of kitchen roll. Where are we? There we go. And we'll just give that a little bit of a wipe just so that we're not working in moisture, only because I can never pick it up then. So if I take this, so I'm going to keep sort of practicing where I'm going to add these. There we go. So I'm going to add this one a bit further down on this side, so further down here. So let's take the auricula again. And you can see I do lots of tapping motion just to make sure that that is covered in ink. And again, we'll add this further down here. So again, I'm not in too much of a rush. I'm just giving that plenty of time just to, you know, make an impression on the surface of the card. There we go. Just wipe that up once again. You can put a piece of copy paper underneath if you wished. So I am going to be faffing. Could I have? I want it like that, honestly. It's going to take me ages to decide. So then that one like that. Yeah, that's lovely. So what I'm going to do now, just so that I keep where it is, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive just under here. There we go. And I can just keep that, hold that in place. I haven't glued it all down. And then I'm going to have this one just here. So I'll have one over the top there. Again, lots of tapping motion. This is a beautiful, beautiful colour, this barley blue. It really is beautiful. So let's add, and because my light's shining on there, I can hardly see what I'm doing. So maybe let's move this. I'll do that afterwards. Don't try and do two things at once, Tracy. Trying to stamp and there we go. So we'll just wipe that bit up. And then let's just move this light a bit so it isn't quite so glary. There we go. So what I've got now is I've got my sort of ATCs just so I can see where I want them. So what I'm going to do then is just sort of place this one round about there. Do you like how I faff and I can't make my mind up? It's hilarious, isn't it? So now I can just move that card out of the way, and then they're kept sort of in place. Let's have a little bit of adhesive down there. There we go. So they are sort of in place now. I don't need to put that on. So what it means then, it doesn't matter what I do now. I can pick it up as a whole and then I can place it onto my card, so it works quite nicely. So we can just work with this. Just beautiful. So I'm going to colour those in. Now let's make sure that it's got not really shiny, so it's fine. It's dryish on there, so that's good. And then we'll take some pencils. And really, if you want to sort of, if we want to do it properly, let's see if we can grab a scrap of card. When we're testing what colours, we really should work on the card that we're actually working on. So let me see what colours I fancy. So I like that colour, which is light aqua, PC 992. And then, what colour are you? Aquamarine. Yes, that will be nice. And then something sort of a bit darker. Let's have a look. Do you like how I'm testing the colours? But by testing them, I can see them better on the card. I think that one will do. So we'll just move our pencils out of the way. And we're going to sharpen this one because it's not sharpened, as you can see. So we've got light aqua PC 992, we've got aquamarine 905, and I've got muted turquoise PC 1088. Make sure I've got the smaller hole, and then we'll just drop it in there. It's because I'm using my non-dominant hand to hold the sharpener, and then you should keep your pencil still, and it's the sharpener that should move and take the stress, not your pencil. I like it when I get a long sharpening like that. I know. Small things nice sharp point. But I do think I might want something even darker as well. Let's have a look at this. Let's have something really dark as well. Now, if you've got your colour swatches, then you can just go straight to your swatch and decide. I don't do any colour swatches, I'm afraid. I know, terrible. So now I'm going to colour my auriculas. So I'm going to use a touch of the dark colour first, which is China Blue, and it's PC1100. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the darker blue. And the ink that we've used, the barley blue, really gives a lovely sort of outline to the floral. But I'm not going to come in too heavy-handed with the colour. I'm just coming in very lightly with the colour. But because I've adhered everything, I now don't have to worry about it being in the right place because I've adhered it in the position I want it in. So just give that blue. Just a light circular motion just to add some of that blue. This is just our first layer, and obviously we've got that you know, from the previous card we used some Distress Oxide spray as well, so you can feel that actually on the card. So that's just my dark colour at the moment. And then I'm going to come in with, which one are you going to do? So first, second, then that one. So then I'm going to come in with Aquamarine, PC905. Come in with the Aquamarine and then come into that darker blue, which doesn't really look that dark at the moment because we've just added a soft circular motion with that colour, and we've just added a soft layer of colour. So not pressing on too hard at all. So just being very gentle and just adding that colour. But even though I'm being gentle, I'm still coming into the darker colour just so that we get some of that blend. Again, just using a circular motion. There we go. It's been a beautiful day today, so I did manage to spend a little time in the garden just tidying some things up. I've got light aqua, PC992, and I'm going to come in with the light aqua, and really you can't sort of differentiate between the colours at the moment because the way I'm layering that colour on there is so light. There's not much differentiation between the colours that I've laid on there. But I'm happy with that. I don't want to come in too hard with any of the colour. But whenever I add the colour, I come into the previous colour when I add that. But if I come in and I press too hard, it just means that I then won't be able to layer any more of that pigment because I've pressed so hard. So I'm just being mindful of that and just pressing very lightly just to add And then we've got the muted turquoise is going to be my final sort of colour. And at the moment you've just got a really muted layers of colour. That's exactly what you've got, just as this pencil says, muted layers of colour. But in sort of, with your naked eye, you can see, you'll see personally that you're layering down that colour. It's very difficult to see in the camera. Let's just layer this down. But I do love watching the florals come to life as we colour them. It's my favourite bit as they come to life. It's just wonderful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back to that China Blue PC1100, and I'm just going to come in with a little bit more pressure, just to add a little bit more of that colour. Just a little bit more pressure, but not so hard that it'll stop you layering any more colour down. And if you find you're pressing too hard, just move your fingers further up your pencil. That will help you to sort of use a gentler stroke using your pencil, just so that you don't press too hard. There we go. So I've got that darker layer now. I can really see that. And you can sort of put some of the lines in if you wish with the darker colour. But again, not pressing so hard that you break that paper down, but just a little bit firmer, just so we've got a little bit more of that pigment and we get a little bit more definition just to our floral. Again, lovely, lovely colours. And you can see just with that how much more depth that you have, just with a little bit more pressure on the China Blue. I'm going to come to the aquamarine. So let's come in with the aquamarine now, using that circular motion, but just slightly more pressure. And with the more pressure, I'm blending into this darker colour. So just going around, using that circular motion and adding a little bit more of that pigment. And as you add more of the pigment, you will see it gradually smooth out. There we go. Let's go to this one. Oh, I do love these colours. Really do. Really nice. I don't think there's a little bit of the dark colour on there. Let's just blend that a little bit more. So just coming in with a little bit more pressure, but again, not too much, because you've already got oxide inks on there and sprays, whatever we've mopped up. Then I'm going to come to the light aqua and we'll blend our third colour, coming in to the previous two colours. And I can still see some of the text underneath. If you prefer to do just one floral at a time, that's fine, whichever works for you. Just remember to come into the previous colour, and then I'm going to hold this up once I've finished these couple of layers of colour, just so you can see that you can still see some of the markings that picking up the ink leaves. You can still see some of that through the background, so I shall show you that. I can't speak. And then I'm finally going to the muted turquoise PC 1088. I'm just going to come in that muted turquoise. Do you like how I suddenly do the middle one before the end one? Very strange. And it's up to you whether you add 3 or 4 colours. It's entirely your choice. But I do like sort of stamping in the colour that you're actually colouring with, or a similar colour, because it just really goes with the whole thing. Let me just show you. So you can still see, can you see where I've picked up and you get this dotting? You can still see that, and I can still see touches of the oxide here through the floral. So you can still see that, which is just lovely. Really adds to that. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to come in with a final layer. And I'm just going to sort of add a little bit more depth now. So I'm going to add in a few of those lines. Just with the darker colour. Just to bring a little bit more definition to that design. I'm probably going to leave the contrast of the inner piece just there, because it just gives some contrast to that. Let's just colour this around. Go around here. So it's up to you if you want to add a few of the lines like I'm doing, sort of with the darker colour. it's up to you how much of that depth you want to add. Oh, I do love that colour, must admit, I really like that colour. Then I'm going to use the aquamarine just to add a little bit more. And this is going to be my last layer of colour. And again, coming into that darker blue, just to blend those colours. I do love how pencils transform the project by just adding that little bit of colour. There we go. Come to my third colour, which is the light aqua, which I think I'm just going to leave it with the light aqua now, because I do like that lovely light aqua. I have something about doing the centre flower first rather than the outside flower. This light aqua's a lovely colour as well. Really nice. Just beautiful, beautiful colours. But I always love if you can make something from leftovers. Don't know, I feel quite chuffed if I've created a second piece from a card that I was creating in the first place. Don't ask me why, but it's very satisfying. But now I've got those in place where I want them. And then I can oh, wrong piece of card, Tracy. And then I can add them quite easily just to my piece. But what I'm going to do is add a little bit of stamping in brown. So I'm going to take Portobello, and on the Auricula stamp we've got the little text here, often displayed in individual pots on shelves, so I'm going to use that. Yes, it's nice if it's the right way up, isn't it? So I'm going to use my Portobello. I'm going to take the Portobello and just add some of that text. Now it's going to sort of lay on top of some of the wax, so I'm going to sort of need to blot that as well. But I do love adding the text. Just lovely. Just a little bit of the brown, bringing in some of that brown from the project. So it's quite nice. And you don't have to stamp perfect. It's nice sometimes if, you know, it's a little bit more random as well. So let's have a little bit stamped here. There we go. And then a little bit stamped here, going over the two. So I'll just wipe that so I can pick it up and then I'm not getting the ink all over me. And then if I bring this in, you can see where I'm going, just so you can see what I'm going for. And then, as per normal, Tracy's got no copier paper. So let's grab that copier paper, just so that we can blot that ink, because obviously some of that ink has gone onto the waxy crayon, which is like then becomes like a resist. So I need to make sure that that is dry. And we should really give that a dry with our heat tool, just to make sure that ink is dry. And I'm doing that thing again where I just waft my heat tool because it's a habit and I've got no other reason why. And I'm concentrating here because that's where the waxy pencil is. So I just need to make sure that that's dry. Now you can see I've not stuck this down here, so I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive there just to stick that down. That's better. And then, where do I want to add? So I'm going to take the Auricula stamp again, and then I've got the Auricula wording, which I now want in the black, so it's in the foreground. So I'm going to stamp that in my Nocturne ink. Just so that that is in the foreground uppermost. Using the biggest scissors ever. Just means I've got, if I use larger scissors, I've got one sort of cutting stroke, and it's not then quite as wonky as it is if you use several cutting actions. So it's going to take me forever too. So I want to, let me just place that there. Now, yes, I'm going to add that there, but I was going to have one. I'm going to faff, which is just about standard for Tracy. Now I'm going to have it there. So we'll stick this on our piece. But isn't it fun that you can just create something from a previous card that you created, and just giving that a little bit of time just to grab hold the adhesive. So I'm going to add a little bit of my Inktense, which you well know by now that I love my Inktense pencil, my Chinese ink, because it just gives a lovely little bit of shading just underneath. There we go. Just mop that up. There we go. Let me have a look. I often look through the camera because it's just a better judge. I can just see better. So then let's grab our Alpha Florals, which I've already got out. So I've got my Alpha Florals. And I think, look at the poor pheasant that's been used so much that it's falling off. I'm going to use the little hair. Is that you? That one? Take that auricula off there. We'll take our little hair. I'm then going to stamp in the black. just going to add the hair here. I love these little animals that I can just add to the pieces. It's really just adds a little finishing touch, which is just perfect. And you can see I just held that on there just to make sure that it makes good contact and it absorbs onto the surface of the card and it gives me a good impression. And I'm going to sort of ground our little hair because we don't want him just floating in midair. That's far too wet, Tracy. There we go. Let's just blend that out a little bit. That's better. And then I'm going to add some white splatters. Now, if you don't want to get any of the white splatters on the wording, we'll just cut. As you can see, I still haven't cleaned these scissors. Tut, tut. Just place a piece of card over there and then I can splatter to my heart's content. And not worry about the word. There we go. So I've got some lovely splatters on there. Oh, and now I haven't got it all round the word, so that's perfect. I'm then going to add this to here. But before I do that, I'm going to take the portobello, and really, if you're half sensible, which I'm not, you would wait until it's dry so that you weren't placing your fingers into the Posca pen. But you know what I'm like by now. So I'm just adding a little bit of that dark ink just around the edges. Now, I don't want to place that straight onto the card yet. I'm just going to give that a dry because I can already see how wet the portobello is around the edges. So to save making any mess, we'll just give that a dry. And also the Posca pen. Look at me, not picking it up with the Posca pen all wet. So now we can add our ATCs. And if you want to keep them as ATCs, you can keep them as ATCs. But it's nice also if you've got the ATC packs that I've got online. It's nice if you want to do something different with them as well. Not necessarily just ATCs. So I've got that just where I want it now. And save me getting any ink anywhere, put a piece of copier paper over there. It means I can rub that, no problem at all, without smudging any ink or getting it on my fingers and then spreading it somewhere else. I can just make sure that that's stuck down. And then I've got no ink anywhere. It's just perfect. So we can then add that to our black mat. I'm aware we haven't added some touches of white yet with the Posca pen. I don't mean the splatters, I mean to the floral. So we'll add this now to our black mat. There we go. And having everything already pre-cut is just wonderful. And again, I'll just take that copier paper again and just rub over. And I'm keeping my card nice and clean. And we'll add that to the card blank just shortly. So let's make sure we've got our Posca pen. And then I'm just going to add some touches of white. And you know me by now, probably need to clean the pen because I've used it with wax. And I can see I've used it with wax pencils because I can see the colour on there. So let's just see if we've got that working. And you too can watch Tracy just trying to get her Posca. Is it that one or is it this one? No, I'm sure it's this one. You don't need to press your Posca pen too hard. And that's not, it's not showing up as much as I would like it. Oh, that's getting a bit better. If you give it your card a little bit of time just to sort of rest. Obviously, I have added lots of waxy pencil on there, and the reason I'm lifting it up is because Tracy can't see with the glare of her light. So I'm just adding a few touches of the white just to lift the design a little bit. Let's just dot some of the, let's add a little bit, and you can come in and sort of add layers of the white rather than too much in one go. Sometimes you can add it too fast, or unlike me, not at all at this rate. That's better. So just take your time just to add those light touches of white. And when you see me clean it, it's just cleaning it from the wax. I should try it on the back to see if my white is working. There we go. And you can see the pencil is working, but obviously I'm using it on the waxy layer. So that's why you just need to clean it now and then. And just add a few of those touches of white. You can obviously use your bleed proof and paint them on if you want, but I like it quite sort of lightly done and then adding layers of that rather than too much, because if I add too much too soon, it's just, for me, it doesn't look right. So I do like adding the gentle white touches first. And then, where are we? I'm going to take my Inktense pencil again, and I'm just going to just come around here. And we'll take our spritzer bottle again. And just add the shading. Just add a little bit of the shading. Just at the base, just at the bottom there, to give a little bit more of that dimension. Let's have a look at the bigger Posca pen, which I know is working. So I'm just using my larger Posca pen just to add a little bit more of the white. So this is PC5M. That's the size of the nib. And I'm just very lightly touching that. I'm not leaving sort of really clumpy layers of the Posca pen. I'm just doing it very lightly, just so that it's not too much. There we go. Just adding a few little dots in here. There we go. I use the smaller white. Just to add a few touches there to the hair. There we go. And then if we add this to a 5x7 card blank, it always looks nice when you've got them matted and layered. Let's make sure we've got the card opening the right way. I like to lift that up because then I can just see what I am doing. Let's lift that up a little bit. Honestly, I don't half faff. That's it. With the card. Still not right. How long can one person faff with a card? You'd be surprised. Let's take the adhesive off there. Just so that you can see. I just like the fact that we've used the sort of the 3 ATCs and we've made use of those. Like I always say, it's great having that 2 for 1 sort of background pieces because you can always use them. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of violet and I'm just going to bring in slightly little bit, that's good English that is, Tracy, a little bit of the violet. Just a little bit of the violet. That was excellent English. Not. So I'm just bringing in a little bit of the violet. Not much, just a little bit. Just making it a little bit darker. And I'm only allowed to do this because I haven't pressed on too hard in the first place. So it just allows me just to add a little bit more. And violets and purples give you sort of really good shading. And you can add a little bit just to the, just so it's a little bit darker. And you should know by now, Tracy loves a good faff. And obviously you don't have to do this if you don't wish. It's just that I love adding a little, just a little bit more. And just adding a little bit of that violet just to those lines there, just to finish it off because I like faffing. So I hope you'll give that a go. Something nice and simple, but something we've used from a previous project. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.